My name is Michelle Marchant Johnson, and I am your host. And I'm here with one of my favorite people on the planet, the amazing PJ Dixon. Welcome, PJ.
Hello. Thank you so much. You're so sweet. I love it when you say that I'm one of your favorite people because you're one of my favorite people. Big squeeze from me to you. Hug. Oh.
So PJ and I connected a few years ago, and I think he is just an amazing, inspirational person and speaker, and he's a transformational coach. He's spoken throughout the world, and he's living his life to the fullest despite some challenges that he's had from a very, very young age. And I just admire and respect him so much. And I know the ladies in this audience just love you, PJ, because I've received so much wonderful feedback about you over the years. So welcome
sweet.
once again.
Thank you. I'm super glad to be back. Anytime you ask me, I always want to say yes, just because I love to be in your company. And the ladies in your group that follow you are so fortunate to be able to work with somebody of your caliber and your quality and your femininity and your ability to love so naturally and so easily. So for me to be amongst that group, including you and especially you, it's a real honor for me as a man to be included in that space.
Oh, thank you, PJ. That touches my heart. That's so sweet and beautiful. And so, it goes without saying, PJ, 2020 has been a challenging year collectively and individually for everyone on the planet in different ways. Different people have had certainly different experiences. But let's just acknowledge the elephant in the room and say it probably hasn't been the easiest year to meet new people, get to know someone, and date in more of a normal way and fall in love. Now, we could say certainly maybe it helped people get more in touch with their desire for love. And certainly there are opportunities in the midst of every crisis. But I know that there's a lot of people that maybe are coming into 2021 feeling like a little bit like, whoa, what was that? Right.
Massive hangover. You're like, did I really drink that much New Year's Eve 2019? Because wow, was 2020 a hangover?
Right, exactly. In fact, I think I saw a meme on Facebook or something that said something like, when we go into 2021, everyone tiptoe lightly and don't make any noise and don't touch anything. Like, in other words, we got to kind of sneak up on it.
Right? When it catch 2021 by the tail, so when it runs off, we're with it, right? Let's leave 2020 in the dust.
Right. So the intention of this series is really to give people hope and inspiration on how they experience more love in their lives, how they can create more love in their lives. Sometimes finding the one, kind of starts from within, right? Sometimes this whole journey of love is really a journey. And I just want to honor everyone for wherever they're at in that journey.
Absolutely, 100%. And I would actually even say that all of our journeys begin within.
Yeah.
Everything has to come from a decision inside of us to get us in motion. And so no matter what it is that you want, we can never actually legitimately blame anything or everything outside of us, because when we point, we really have three fingers that are pointing back at us. And so that the benefit of that is the reminder that we get to be empowered enough to make the decisions to build the life that we really want. And this is one of the important things that I've been working with my own clients lately is on confidence, because the more confident you are, the more everything in your world starts to open up. And naturally, you start to get the things in your life that you want. It's when you live without that level of confidence that you're actually living a disempowered life. So empowerment doesn't necessarily mean that you're confident, but being confident means that you're empowered in certain areas of your life. And love is one of the places that women of all this, men or women should definitely lead the charge with this, because women love so easily and so naturally. The problem is that they don't always love themselves.
Mm-hmm. So true. So true and so powerful. And absolutely, our journeys do start within. And confidence, when you said that, PJ, one thing that came to my mind was whenever we hear, surveys or things that give feedback on what men and women find most attractive in a potential partner, confidence is always way up there on the list, right?
Absolutely.
And I guess maybe in some ways we can, maybe, there's the saying, fake it until you make it, but true confidence really has to come from within. It has to be real and genuine, or people can sense that, I believe. And why do you think confidence, if you were to say, why do you think confidence is such a powerful and inviting energy to be in? Like, why do you think that that's always at the top of the list?
Because it helps women feel safe. Because it also creates this mystery from a confident man, because he becomes the leader, and women love having their men be a good leader. Doesn't mean that he has to tell you what to do. It doesn't mean he makes all the decisions, but it means that he's far enough ahead and far enough advanced and far enough evolved emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, financially, emotionally, all of this, that he can interest you and captivate you and draw you forward. See, women don't move through life. Women are moved through life, right? So if you're disconnected from your femininity, you might trudge through the world like a guy, right? Or if you're in touch with your femininity, there's something in you that draws you forward, that draws you to that flower, that draws you to that sweet little baby, that draws you in to hug the older person, right? That draws you in to love somebody who has been kind to you. So women are drawn and pulled through life. And so when a man shows up in authentic confidence, then that's attractive because he becomes the beacon that they're drawn and pulled to. It allows them to go back into their natural feminine, because the confident man, let's say it like this. One of the most beautiful things that a man can do for a woman is when he walks up behind her, not like sneaking up, right? Not like that. Right? But if he walks up behind his lady and he just embraces her from behind, because when he embraces her from behind, she goes, what he's saying without saying a single word is, babe, I've got your back. And that protection allows her to breathe back in, to let go of all the defenses, to set down the armor, take off set down the shield, take off the armor, and just settle back into her natural feminine, settle back into her natural state, settle back into that state of being open and receptive instead of potentially defensive and protective. And a woman can do the same for a man when she embraces him in the front, when she hugs him from the front, because what she does is she then says, I'll protect your vulnerability. I'll protect your heart, because I know that you don't like to be vulnerable, but with me, you're safe. So you're welcome to be vulnerable because I've got you. It's a beautiful love affair.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think you're bringing up something really important here too, which my husband and I have talked about this, how when we think of safety in a relationship, often for women, of course, we think of the physical safety.
Yes.
And the safety in feeling like this man would protect us or will protect us, and that we don't have to be afraid of him. That is a part of it. And of course, emotional safety is a part of it for women as well. But for a man, the emotional safety piece is really important, is really key, because when you are a man's intimate partner or wife, you may be the only person in the whole world that he is able to share certain parts of himself with. And if that emotional safety is not there for him, that's a really big deal. It can be a deal breaker for sure. And
absolutely, unquestionably correct. Keep going. Sorry, I didn't mean to pull you out.
Fine. No, you're fine. And I just sometimes think, especially when men show up with that kind of rough, tough exterior, we don't, and you know what I'm talking about, PJ.
I do.
We don't always recognize or see that. I sometimes think of women as being kind of like this, like the steel magnolias, like we're beautiful and soft on the outside, but on the inside, man, we can be steel if we have to be. It's nice when we don't have to be, but we can be. And I sometimes think men are a little bit the opposite. Sometimes they can have this rough, tough exterior, And inside, they're just, they're very vulnerable, especially when they share that really deep part of themselves and really deep emotions that they may not share with anyone else. Like I have this brother, he's my little brother, but he's a big boy. He played offensive lineman for Virginia Tech back in the day.
All right.
And when
I think I could take him.
yeah, you could take it for sure. When
All 4 feet tall in the wheelchair.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, go ahead.
When he got back there to Virginia Tech, he'd played for another school before. They told him he weighed like 280 at the time. And they told him he had to get at least well over 300 pounds to be on the offensive line and he had to lift these massive amounts of weights and everything. And so, I'm not much of a sports fan, but I know that the offensive linemen, they're basically like the human wall to protect some of the other players, right? So he's the human wall. So he took some hits in this playing of this football. So he looks like this rough, tough guy. And he kind of has one of those faces where if he's not smiling, he kind of looks like, yeah, don't even cross me. My brother is like the biggest teddy bear inside you've ever seen. Like he's got the sweetest heart. He cries in movies. He's just like this big, sweet teddy bear. And so that's kind of what I think of sometimes when I think about the vulnerability of a man.
So one of the sexiest things to me, well, for the women that I've worked with, right, are cowboys. Why are cowboys so sexy? Because they show up. They're strong. They're confident. They work hard. They're not lazy. They show up. They're emotionally tender. They connect with their partners. There's a softness inside and yet a strong, rugged exterior. And they can hold this space for the women when they're crying and melting down. They can just hold them and hold them together. And sometimes when women are acting a little bit, sometimes crazy, they can also stand there and take it and not let her get away with it, because women don't usually want to get away with that. They want that connection to be reestablished. And a strong man has that, a confident man has that ability. For me, one of the greatest examples of this was when Garth Brooks was on Ellen, and apparently he either doesn't like clowns, or he doesn't like things that pop out of like boxes or startle you or something like that. I can't remember the situation. What I do remember is that for some reason, Ellen thought it would be funny to have somebody pop out of this box sitting right on the stage, right between her chair and their chair or couch. And when the person did, the person popped out. And as they popped out, they stood up and the box fell over the edge of the stage. And as it fell over the edge of the stage, the person tumbled backwards. And Garth Brooks didn't go, and run away. He jumped up and ran around the couch and reached down and picked the person up and was like, "Are you okay? Are you all right?" He didn't think anything about that this was supposed to be a joke. His heart immediately went towards taking care of someone. And despite what might have scared him in the past, what meant more to him was knowing that someone was safe and was okay. To me, that's the heart of a good man. And, I don't know Garth Brooks, but I know how he showed up. And there's a lot to be said for that and how he showed up. There's a lot to be said for how the men of your past, and I'm talking mostly to the women that are listening, how the men of your past have shown up. And it's important for you to recognize, have you established or have you broken a habit and a pattern of allowing those same kind of men in your life, or being open to those same kind of good men in your life?
Mm-hmm. It's so interesting that you're bringing this forward, PJ. First of all, I want to say, coming back to what you said earlier, a man with a plan is very attractive, like a man that kind of has that sense of direction. I think this is one of the reasons confidence is so attractive. And yes, that man who, when a woman is around him, she can feel safe. She can feel safe because he knows who he is, and he has the capacity to show up in that masculine way that is incredibly attractive, like you're describing this cowboy energy. And it's interesting, though, because I was having a conversation earlier today, and so it's so timely that you're bringing this forward, because we were talking about how this person and I were talking about how sometimes because it feels familiar, or because maybe there's like a lot of physical attraction or whatever, we're more drawn to the man who is kind of not that capable of showing up that way. Maybe that's from some of our own wounding, or from some of our own, what feels familiar from our past, like some of the relationships that stem back into childhood, or relationships since that time. And so sometimes we're like attracted to that rugged outside look, or that good looking part of a man, or that rough and tough exterior. And unless that's combined with the heart qualities that you're talking about, the character qualities that you're talking about, those kind of relationships are probably not going to be the most satisfying over the long run. Like, one of the things that my husband and I have said frequently to each other is, there are few things sexier over the long run than having someone who shows up for you day after day after day, someone that you can really count on. Kind of coming back to that, he's got her back and she's got his heart,
Yes.
There are a few things over the long run that are sexier than that.
When you are connected with someone who gets you, when you are connected with someone that you can openly and honestly speak to, when you're connected to someone that even when you're scared, you can speak your truth and feel safe with them, there's real love there. And there's value there. It doesn't mean that you have to stay with that person. Maybe that's not the right person for you, or maybe the timing was just off, right? But that doesn't mean that real love doesn't exist in that relationship. It does exist in that relationship. And this is what everyone planet-wide deserves, is to have at least one person in their life that they can speak openly and honestly to, and that person holds that space for them. And when that love is there, there's no reason to fight. It just doesn't happen. My experience is that when that love exists, fighting doesn't occur. It doesn't mean that you don't disagree sometimes. It doesn't mean that you don't maybe cycle in and out of frustration. But because there's that level of mutual respect, because there's that level of communication, because there's that level of trust and feeling safe because of that trust, love blossoms in those spaces. Gratitude blossoms. Appreciation is there. And love is bloomed from gratitude. And gratitude comes from appreciation. And they're different things. And so start the relationship of any kind with that level of connection. And if that person, if you don't feel safe to share certain things, it tells you right away where that relationship exists in your world. Are we close friends? Are we, friendly? Or are we intimate? And intimacy doesn't necessarily have to be sexy, although it can be, right? Intimacy is like, how close can I get with you? I've had female friends that I've said, even sitting in the car with them, I've said, you're too far away. And I feel like I want to be in this. I don't mean this sexually at all, but I said, I feel like I want you inside of me. Like, I want to take your whole being and pull it into my heart. I want to take your whole being and pull it into the space between my protons and electrons and neutrons. I want to fill the empty space with the expression that is my friend. And this is just talking to some of my friends, right? That doesn't account for any kind of relationships that I've been in, right? That's a beautiful statement, because there's so much there. It's that level of, I trust you, and I can speak to you, and I can talk to you, and I can be vulnerable with you, and I can still be safe. And we can still laugh and play it right after that, So that's really important.
It is. It's so important. And I think it's what most of us desire on a very deep level, is to be able to be real and to be, to let all of those tender parts of ourselves be known to someone and to know that it's safe.
Yeah. I love the word tender, don't you? The word tender, the word gentle. There's a softness to it. And I love when men are tender with women and when men are tender with their children, right? And, I mean, again, what's sexier than seeing a man who's really tender with children, especially his own child, right? Women love that. What's more sexy than a man who helps around the house without ever being asked why? Because he loves his wife and he wants to be part of her life and he wants to give to her and nurture her and share with her and take away some of the burdens so that they can share collectively their life together.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, we're talking a lot about men, and this is find your one in 21 is largely for women. I presume largely for women.
Mm-hmm.
And so the question is begged, yeah, but what does this have to do with me as a woman? It has a lot to do with you as a woman, because when you look at what are the reasons that women can't find love, sometimes it's because there's fear of the old ways or old habits, or am I going to get tricked or duped into something again? But then there's this thing that's a lot more subtle. We want our men to be up here. Our men, I'm speaking as if I was a woman right now. We want our men to be up here. And I want men to be that way too. We want their standards to be so high that they pull women up. Not that women's standards are so high that men have to try to climb up. Although that's important that women keep their standards high so that they meet a man at a certain quality. But here's this sort of behind the scenes, lifting the cover of the universe. What if the reason you can't find love or haven't yet, let me rephrase that. What if the reason that you haven't found that one love yet is because you're not being authentic? Mm-hmm. What if you're saying, I really want this love, but secretly you're saying, I really want this love right now in this part of my life to lift me up, to boost me up, to bring me up, to make me feel better, to give me a bump, right? And that's great because that's what love does. But what if you're using that? What if you think it's a tool to get you to feel a particular way? And what if the universe is saying, yeah, I've got somebody in mind for you, and I'm just waiting for you to be at the level for them to plug in. What if the women here and people all over the world, so this is not targeting anybody in particular, this is offering an opportunity, a new perspective. What if you looked at life and you said, okay, hold on. That's the man that I want. And then let me look at myself and go, am I the woman that would attract that man? And am I being authentic? Am I working in the job that I want to work in? Am I doing the career that I want to do? Am I doing the activities that I want to be doing? Am I painting if I want to paint? Am I sculpting if I want to sculpt? Am I spending time in nature if I want to spend time in nature? Am I in my authentic feminine? Am I reading what I want to read? Am I educating and learning the way I want to learn? Am I speaking my voice? Because what happens is the more you align with your authenticity, the more you're aligned with that authenticity, the more you actually say, no, this is who I really am, the more empowered you become, the more confident you become. And that confidence draws attention. People say, wow, who's she? She's very attractive. Now the quality and the character and the types of men that are drawn to you are already higher. Because the men that aren't at that level, you're going to know that they're players right away or they won't approach you. Mm-hmm. Most often. It doesn't mean that there aren't some shy guys out there that would make amazing partners. And once they get through that little bit of nervousness, all of a sudden they're great guys. There's a joke within the engineering world that says engineers don't make good date material. They make great husband material though, Right. And so what if the universe is just holding out and waiting for you to lift yourself, to say, oh, hold on, let me step back and look at myself. Am I actually being who I really want to be? Am I actually living the way I want to live? Or am I just sort of living by default and this is good enough? No, I'm not where I want to be. No, I'm not how I want to be. So if I could just reshape myself, where would I be? Who would I be? I almost guarantee that just shifting into that fullness of who you really are will literally draw more attention. I would almost guarantee that would change, remarkably change your life, and consequently change the attraction that draws to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And I think, if we're looking at this experience that we're having collectively of this pandemic through this lens of what is the opportunity here,
Yes.
we can see there can be a lot of opportunity, and there can be a lot of opportunity to explore some of these things where maybe the slowing down of our lives, if that has happened for you, and for many people it has, whether it be, their work situation has changed, they don't have to commute, or they're working from home, or they're having to figure out a new path because they lost their job. Those things can be challenging, and yet they can really be an opportunity for us to go within and ask some of these questions that we may not have taken the time if things had just gone along as they were. We may not have taken the time to really look at. And the question you pose because I believe the women here want to attract a very high quality man and someone that treats them very well. And of course, we want that for you. And then asking yourself that question, what are the areas of my life that I might want to look at that would help me to even up level even that much more, so that I'm even that much more attractive. I mean, I believe we have amazing, accomplished, beautiful, impressive women here. I know we do, because I know so many of the women that are in this audience. And yet, we're all on a path of growth. There's always a little more polishing, a little bit more we might want to do, or a little something that we might want to look at that even lets us be that much more authentic, or that much more radiant, or to explore our own femininity in different ways, or get into that place where we're in a state of happiness or joy, because that energy is so attractive. It's like I've had men say to me, look, if you're a happy woman, our job is halfway done already, because we already get to feel like it's like, woohoo, I'm going to be able to succeed here because she's already really happy.
There's so much truth in that. There's so much truth in that. The free gift that I'm going to give, right? My 109-page ebook called 5 Ways to Date Yourself and One Big Reason Why You Should, is really designed to give you a chance to explore all of the things that life has to offer. And in the exploration, you discover yourself. And in the discovering of who you really are, you don't have to try to raise your standards, because your standards just naturally raise. I say this all the time: seek not to love more, but instead to release the obstacles separating you from love. And Rumi said something very similar, but for some reason I can never remember exactly what Rumi said. And so this is my version of that. So this is my quote, right? But you can substitute the word love for confidence, for relationships, for anything. Seek not a new relationship, but to remove the obstacles separating you from the new relationship. And what are those obstacles? Fear, worry, doubt, self-image. And the more you put into yourself, the more you invest in yourself, the more you pour into and nurture yourself, the healthier you're going to be. And the healthier you are, the more naturally you can give. And men are drawn to and attracted to femininity. And so the more natural you are in that state, the more men are like, who are you? Mm-hmm. Because there's something inherently sexy about you. And it's not always what you look like, ladies. It's what you exude. If a woman walks by me, or I walk by a woman, or happen to be in the company of a woman who's very much in her feminine and loves her femininity, I feel that as a man. It's a soft, maybe sounds cliche, but it's like a soft bed of flowers that the hard edges of a man just sort of melt into. Because as men, we're constantly pushing out. I know where everything in the room is. I can push my energy out and feel where all that is. I know what's going on in the hallway of the hotel I'm currently staying in, right? When I'm with other people, I'm aware of how other people are moving. I have loads of 20 plus years, 30 plus years, I think, of martial arts training. And so some of that's there, but men push out and we have sort of harder edges. So when the feminine is in our presence, we viscerally feel it. It softens our edges, it softens our insides, it opens us up. So don't think it's about what you look like. Sure, we are visual creatures, but if you exude that confidence in your own femininity, if there's a naturalness in who you are, and I'm not saying if you're not naturally feminine that you have to go and become feminine, be who you are. That will find the right match, that finds the right link. And if you're not naturally feminine, are you not naturally feminine because something happened that programmed you to believe a particular way and you let go of the feminine? And if you felt safe and you felt seen and you felt heard and you felt valued and important, would that harder exterior, would that soften some? And if the answer is yeah, then you're not quite there yet. You're not quite being authentic yet. You're just still protecting yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. Keep doing that, but also be very cautious and be very careful that you're not saying, well, this is who I am. That sounds like the way a man would answer. Okay. Instead of saying, wow, as a woman, I honor and recognize my suppleness, my flexibility, and my ability to be open and receptive, and my natural state of wanting to nurture. There's real beauty in that. And again, if that's not who you are, I'm very much connected with my feminine side. So I'm masculine when I need to be masculine, and I'm soft when I need or want to be soft. And so I'm okay with that. And ladies get to be okay with the same. If there's a natural softness and yet they turn on some of that masculine strength sometimes, and that works for them, that's okay. As long as you're truly okay with who you are. And if you're not where you want to be, how do we get you there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this really resonates because so often I think we show up in the world as human beings with a bit of a mask or a bit of a facade.
Yeah.
We always want to look good and avoid looking bad, which is understandable. We want to put our best put forward out into the world. And yet, I really believe that one of the things that makes us not only relatable, but opens up that pathway to intimacy is when we're willing to kind of show and share some of those more vulnerable parts of ourselves, even if they don't feel perfect. When we're able to show up as real, it allows someone else to show up as real. It also allows someone to really see who we actually are. Because if we're trying to be this version of ourselves, in fact, I was speaking with someone today who said, sometimes I feel like there's a persona that shows up before I do in a dating situation. And she said, it's a school marm. That's how she described the persona, which totally cracked me up. She said, it's like this school marm version shows up to make sure that everything's safe before the real me shows up. That's how
that
she
is hilarious.
Don't you love that?
That is super funny. And the fact that she sees it and she can laugh about it, that's so huge, right?
I know.
Can you imagine her on a date with somebody that she likes and they're like, you can see them starting to pull away and she's like, hold on. And they're like, what? Because now they're captivated. And she's like, give me a second chance. My school marm showed up. And they're like, I don't know what that means, right? But now they're captivated because it's authentic. So
Exactly.
yeah, so that's great. Like, how do you show up? What mask are you wearing when you get there?
Uh-huh.
And sometimes it's the mask that you put on even in the early stages of dating and talking versus being honest. Now, look, here's the thing. Like you said it a minute ago, we all want to be attractive. We all want to put on our best face. We do, and that's great. And so then the question is, well, am I being honest and authentic? Yes and no. Yes, you are, because when I meet somebody new, this is how I want to be. This is part of who I am because I want, to share this part of me. But if, there's a part of you that's like, yeah, but this is what's wrong in my life and that's what's wrong in my life. And I mean, if they can't deal with that, then maybe we shouldn't be going out. And so I should probably just tell them right away all these problems. No.
Yeah,
I mean, yes and no, right? yes, there's some truth there, but no, it's not actually necessarily true. It's perspective. Are you in victim mode, or are you just being authentic? Like, I'm not in victim mode because of my disability, my wheelchair. It just is what it is. So if I talk about it, it's fact. I'm just talking fact, right? Versus like, oh, I'm disabled and so I'm not going to be able to do this. And you're going to have to lift me into the car when we go out and all. That's crazy talk. Like, why would I worry about that? I'd say, yeah, like, this is how it works. If we want to hang out, guy or girl, you got to put me in the car. I'm not strong enough to do it anymore, right? Friend or business partner, it doesn't matter. You're going to have to help me in certain ways. Because I'm comfortable with the fact, then that's what it is. It doesn't become an emotional thing. Check yourself. If there are things that you're feeling like, oh, I don't know if I'm that good. I don't know if I'm good enough. That's victim mode. Let that go. It's okay to let that go. And when you let that go, what arises after that? Well, naturally, there's a certain level of confidence that arises. When you let go of what I'm not good enough and where I'm not the way I wish I was, and when I let go of comparisitis, is that what they call it? Comparisonitis or something like that, right? Where I'm comparing myself to everybody else. When you let that go, literally right now, as you're listening to me, if you can just let go of all of that self-doubt, right? And you just go, well, what really shows up? My heart really shows up. And what's there? Confidence, kindness, connection, authenticity, truth, depth. You said it before we started the video. We were talking about your experience 8 years ago and how your husband, kissed you. And I don't know how much depth that you want to go into. So when he kissed you, you realized in that moment that he didn't see you for what you looked like. He saw you for you, right? And there's real beauty in that. And in that moment, even though you were struggling and even though, you were trying to figure out how to get back up, the authentic expression of who you were, letting go of any kind of victim mentality or, fear in that moment, you just had that connection. Because the definition of love is letting go of oneself to embrace oneness, right? Love is just the recognition of oneness. There's only connection. And so when you let go of what you think is going to separate you from someone, the only thing that remains is the opportunity for connection.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let go before you go out. Sorry, one last thing. Ladies, let go. Create a ceremony or a ritual that allows you to let go or put those things down that make you feel less than before you walk out the door. And you put those down. You can pick them up when you come home if you want, but put them down before you go out and step away from them physically act like you're taking these things out of you and set them on a shelf or put them in a closet or throw them in the trash or flush them down the toilet, whatever it is that you want to do, wash them off in the shower before you go out. It doesn't matter, but create some kind of ritual for yourself. Set these things down and then step away from where you set them and then say, okay, well, and then stop for a moment and go, so what's left? You'll find a calm. You'll find a confidence. You'll find a connection to your own self. You'll find an authenticity. You'll find that date will be far more fun because you showed up and not this artificial fake fear less than you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And another thing that goes along with this, PJ, that I sometimes will do with my clients is I have them do an exercise where I invite them to go really deep about who they are and what they really bring into a relationship, a potential relationship. And so sometimes it starts where they're saying, well, I have a really good job, I have a stable career, I have this or that. And I'm like, no, I want to go deeper.
Yeah.
To who you are. You have this kindness and you have this passion for life and you have a commitment to your dreams and to love and, really going deep about who you are, not just about the accomplishments, not just about the resume stuff, although those things are important. Those are not necessarily the essence of who you are. And so the experience you were describing a little earlier with my husband, was when I was going through this very challenging, very difficult breast cancer journey a few years back. And I was with my bald head, and I was going through all of this daunting cancer treatment and surgeries and things. And I was feeling the least beautiful I've ever felt in my life. And then my husband would kiss my bald head and tell me how beautiful I was. Well, I felt anything but beautiful, because not only was I bald, but I was very ill. I was very sickly. So I looked sickly as well as being bald. The eyebrows and eyelashes jumped ship. It's hard to feel cute and attractive. So what I got from that experience, though, and this is what you and I were talking about, is that I'm like, whoa, he loves me for the essence of who I am. He still saw me really as beautiful.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just because of the outward appearance or how I looked, because I didn't look good.
Right.
And it wasn't because I was doing all of these cool things in life, because I was just barely surviving. I was just trying to survive. But he loved me in a way, and that left a very profound impression upon me, and a deeper understanding of the essence of who I really am as a person, as a woman. He still saw me as beautiful. And that was authentic. That was real. I know it because I felt it in a way I had never felt it or understood before.
Love, people say love is blind. And I would say love sees authentically. Love allows you to see with your heart and not your eyes. And to add to the activity that you have your clients do, where they list the value that they actually bring into a relationship. I do something very similar with my clients. And then I have them hang it on the refrigerator. And then every time they walk by the refrigerator, they can hang it anywhere they want. But I usually say, hey, let's hang it on the refrigerator. Anytime they walk by, even if they like walk by the refrigerator to get a glass of water from the sink, they have to stop and they have to read 3 things from any of the pages, because it's usually multiple pages. Like you can literally flip through a page and just choose one thing. You have to say it, or like read it out loud, and you have to feel it. And you can't go on until you feel it. And then you go to the second, then you go to the third. When you say it and you feel it, then you can get your water. But here's the thing. When you walk back by the refrigerator again to leave the kitchen, you got to do it again because you're walking by the refrigerator again, right? And so I was actually going to tell this story anyway, so it's great that you brought this up. One of my clients did that, and she was blind, not physically blind, but she was blind to any opportunities of meeting a man. She really believed that she'd been married once, she lost a child, she was never going to, meet another man. And this was, heartbreaking for her. And she's beautiful, physically beautiful, lovely, internally funny as can be, silly, strong, but super, beautifully vulnerable. Like she just would always open up her heart and share it with me. And as soon as she started doing this activity, the one that you mentioned, and my slight version of it, within about 3 weeks, this blindness was lifted, and she saw this man that had been in her life for years. This man had asked her out before, and for whatever reason, she said no. And he was one of her brother's best friends. And when she started to show up differently, he asked her out again. And when they went out, he said his version, and I married them. Like I actually got to marry them. I got my minister's license because they asked me if I would marry them. So super cool, right? And
Beautiful.
so it was super amazing. And so when I asked him, I was like, well, what was your first date like with her? He said, bro, we went to this restaurant, and they're like, it's sort of a sports bar, and there's TVs on and sports going on and all this activity and people all around. And he said, the whole night I didn't realize there was another person in the restaurant because I was so captivated by her. I was just so present with her. And then when we started to leave, he's like, oh, there's TVs on, there are other people here. He was just lost in her because of how she showed up, because she let go of the things holding her back and just showed up in her fullness. And literally within months, they were married. I'm not saying like a year. I'm saying within months.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful story.
And it's because they let go. I was working with a male client this morning, and he liked what I said. I said, let go and let love. Let me try again. Let go and let love flow. And he's like, oh, that rhymes. And so he writes it down. And I said, well, what did I say? And he brought reference to it 3 or 4 times throughout our call. But here's the important piece. I said, when he said it again, in my mind, I said, okay, this means something to him. So I said, say it again. And he said, let go and let love flow. And I said, just say the first part. And he said, let go. And I said, yeah. I said, but now only say the first word. And he said, let. And I said, yeah, what is let? Allowing, freeing, liberating, providing for, right? Let. So what can you let go of so you can let your authentic self show? Because that's all that any human being really wants. Look all around the world, the word authenticity and authentic is huge around the world. And you and I, Michelle, know that it's huge around the world because we work with people around the world. We know because we have friends around the world. We know because we're involved in different kinds of events around the world. And that's a huge topic of conversation is authenticity and being authentic. It's so big that it's time for it to circle back and come back into each one of you listening. Are you, am I, is Michelle, are we being as authentic as we possibly can? That's why I'm talking softly right now, because in the softness of my own heart, in the tingling that's running up my spine, as I'm talking to you, it's just the natural softness that wants to come out. I'm hoping that you can hear me, because I could turn on my man voice and talk like this, but it changes things. And this is authentic in certain moments, but it's not authentic when I want you to touch yourself. When I want you to go inside of yourself and touch the soul. That part where Michelle said, I knew he loved me. So go inside and touch the me. Who are you at your soul depth? What's your real truth? Let everything else go, leave it on the rack somewhere, and then go out on that date or pick up that phone or jump on that Zoom call with your first online Zoom date. Because then the real you shows up, because there's not the fear of I'm going to lose this person. There's only, let me just show up and connect with this person. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Very beautifully said.
Thank you.
So, PJ, I always love talking with you, and it always feels like we could go on for hours, right?
No, I hate it when we end. I hate it when we end.
I know, I hate it when we end. But we're going to do it again soon.
Yes.
We're going to do a special event for the ladies in my community again. And I know we've created some magic together tonight, and I know we're going to create some magic again together soon. And I think the things that we're talking about are really important and really deep. So we invite you to dance with them. Yes. And, throughout this entire event, I just think it's important to just, I like to think of it this way, PJ. You hear a lot of different ideas from a lot of different sources. We understand that. But I always like to think about it like the women will be able to relate to this. If you've gone to a department store to maybe buy a dress for a special occasion, you look at the dresses on the hangers, and maybe they look really, really amazing on the hanger, and maybe one doesn't look so amazing on the hanger, but you take them into the dressing room and you try them on. And sometimes it's surprising what looks best on. Like some of the ones that didn't look so amazing on the hanger look really amazing when you put them on, and vice versa. Well, first of all, I want you to experiment with doing that with the ideas that you hear in this event, like try them on. And next, this analogy also applies to dating and men. Like sometimes the flashy, sparkly ones, the ones that look really amazing online or on the hanger, are not really the ones that are going to be the best fit for you. And so we're just inviting you to dance with some new ideas and experiment with different things. Because if you're out there in this audience and you've struggled to find the love that you desire in your life, like I have in my life, until I met my husband, it was just a complete disaster, train wreck. I say I shot myself in the foot so many times, it's a wonder I can walk. Then I finally reached a point where I'm like, you know what? I got to try something different, because I have given my plan a real good solid try.
What did you do differently? I think this is I know you're wrapping up, but this is important. What was the shift for you? What worked for you?
Well, first of all, it was a series of things, and I feel like I was being gently guided to understand that it was time to shift some things, but ultimately things didn't really change for me enough to make a huge difference until I actually got some support. Like I got some help from a coach, from someone that could help me to see how some of my beliefs and some of the ways that I was showing up were self-defeating. I mean, I had some self-defeating patterns and beliefs that I couldn't see because, we all get in our zone and we think we're seeing things clearly, but it's like looking in the mirror. You look in the mirror and you think you see everything. You think you see yourself really clearly. You're not seeing these views, and heaven forbid you're not seeing the rear view. Like there are blind spots is what I'm saying. If you felt stuck, then the invitation is exactly what you're saying with your version of the Rumi quote, which is seek not to find love, but seek to remove all the obstacles you built against it. That's again a version of the Rumi quote and your version. If you are feeling like you just haven't been able to make progress in this area of life, which was how I felt, then it's very likely there's something that's standing in the way. And I could not, for the life of me, see it. I mean, PJ, it's not like I didn't do any work on this either. I read, this is no joke, within 18 months, I read 125 books.
Wow.
On love, dating, relationships, men, women, communication, understanding. This is no joke. And out of every one of those books, I gained something, but it still was not enough to help me to identify these blind spots. It was not enough. And it wasn't until I got some support and some help and I could see those, because someone else could kind of be that mirror for me, that side view and that rear view mirror, and say, hey, wait, you know what? Did you hear what just said there? Did you hear what just came out there? Did you see what showed up there? Yeah. Then it was like, once those things came to the surface, for many of them, that was basically the resolution of the issue, because it was like, I could kind of go, wait, I don't really believe that. I don't have to let that get in the way anymore. Or I could be in choice about whether I let that run the show. Whereas beforehand, it was running the show. Some of these beliefs or patterns were running the show without me even really seeing it or realizing it. And actually, it's one of the reasons why I decided, after I had my own journey and had the breakthroughs that allowed me to meet my amazing husband, Benjamin, and now having been married for 14 years, it made me have a deep desire to want to help other people on their own journey as a result of some of the things that I learned, many of them the hard, painful way. Because I thought, if I can help some people out there not have to go through all that I went through, and help them to have a faster, cleaner, more enjoyable path to love, then I really want to do that. So that's when I began training as a coach and establishing my coaching practice after many years in corporate. It made me very passionate about that, but I couldn't have done it on my own. I tried. I mean, well, that's how committed I was to trying to figure it out when I tell you I read 125 books.
And Tim Ferriss, who's arguably a pretty smart guy, Tim Ferriss says that if you read 5 books on a particular subject, you're almost an expert, or he says that you're pretty much an expert in that field, because most people have never read 5 books about any subject except the people that are already in that industry. And you read 125. So I really want the women to realize that not only did you read 125 books to make the effort to learn and to grow and to implement, but you still experience the blind spots. From the moment that you had a coach in your life, they set you up to be able to be accountable in ways that you were letting yourself off, because the mind deletes, distorts, or generalizes information that comes in, and and comes out sometimes. What you were probably doing is deleting some of the information that was coming out of you about how you were showing up, and distorting your perspective of what was coming in, as well as how you were showing up. And so, and then generalizing all men are this way, men only want A, B, or C, right? So when we generalize, we create these global terms, it doesn't open up the space for the individual. And the moment that you had that coach, somebody who could see what you couldn't see, all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, thank you. I didn't see that. No, I didn't know that. No, I don't want to be like that. Hold on, that does make sense. I want to make sure that I hold on to that because that's important to me. That's a value. But it gave you a choice. Before you didn't have choice because you just didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't know. And you know what happened, PJ? This is before I got the coach, but this was during the time when I was reading all of the books. I was on this plane ride from Salt Lake City to New York City, and I was sitting by this man. I didn't know him, but we were having a nice conversation. And I felt very comfortable with him. It wasn't awkward or anything. I didn't feel like he was hitting on me or anything. We were just having a really nice conversation. But after a while, he asked me if I was married or if I had children, and it was natural in the conversation. And it was like a voice came out of me, PJ, and it said, no, and I don't know if I ever will. That's what came out. And this man, it was like, I didn't even know this man. And he looked at me and he said, why would you say that? What would make you say that? Like, he was shocked. He didn't even know me, but that was what came out. And I thought, well, why did that come out? Like, do I really believe that? But on some level, obviously I did, right?
Yes.
But then after I started working with a coach and I began to see some of the self-sabotaging thoughts and behaviors that were there, and I started to feel like, you know what? I don't have to allow these to run the show anymore. I get to be in choice about my life. I felt so empowered and so confident. And I went from that statement on the plane to then feeling like not only could I meet and attract and marry the man of my dreams, but I felt like it was inevitable. Like it felt like it was there. It was just going to happen. It was like I knew it was going to happen. I could feel it in my bones. So think about what a transformation that is, to having this come out of me like involuntarily on the plane, to then being in this place where I feel like it's not only possible, but it's inevitable that I'm going to have this great love in my life.
I tell my my clients when I work with them on Zoom, they're like, well, why are we doing Zoom? Like early on, they ask, or I'll just tell them, the reason I would like to do it on Zoom is because I get to see you. And when I talk to you, the unconscious mind won't lie. It can lie if it needs to protect you. It can lie and it will lie to protect you. But generally, it exposes itself. And so when you said, well, I don't know if that's ever going to happen for me or if I ever will, that was your unconscious mind just running its normal routine. And then when you heard yourself, you're like, hold on a minute. And then you got a coaching right after that. And that's what turned you around, is the ability to all of a sudden hear yourself. And that's what a good coach does. You, right? Hopefully me. But that's what a good coach does, is they listen for what the unconscious mind is saying so they can do exactly what your coach was. Hold on. Did you hear what you said? Did you hear how you said it? Wow. No, I didn't realize that. Oh my gosh. Okay. And then all of a sudden things become different, because the things that you distort or delete in your own awareness, they pick up and they see and they understand. Mm-hmm. It's a partner. It's a partnership.
Yeah. And it's, for some people, maybe they can have this happen just gracefully and naturally. It seems that way in their lives. But for myself and for many other people out there, we can't do it on our own. I couldn't do it on my own. Like, there are times now when I go, where was I when I needed me? Back then, right? I'm like, yeah. Because now, this has been my life now for so many years, studying and learning about relationships, as well as my, long and winding learning journey to love, where I learned a lot of things the hard way, and the 125 books and all of that. But I'm like, but thank heavens I made that choice. Thank heavens I didn't stay in that mode that a lot of us stay in for so long, where it was, I just thought, well, I could figure out everything else in my life. Why can't I figure this out? But the truth is I couldn't. And it wasn't for the lack of trying. You can tell that based on what I'm telling you. It wasn't for the lack of me trying to figure it out.
That attitude that we as people sometimes have, I can figure it out myself. And I'm guilty of that myself. in a lot of ways because of my disability. No, I can do it myself, mommy, right from the moment that I was little, right? That is arrogance. That is ego. That is cockiness. That is resistance. That is fear of how you're going to be seen. That there's all kinds of problems with that. But when you step back and you go, hold on a minute, let me just get humble for a minute and realize that I don't have to be perfect at everything. I don't have to know everything. I don't have to see everything. That's why we have friends. That's why we have family. That's why we have coaches. That's why we have, support in different ways. And you said it, until I got the support I needed, right? And so I have 2 coaches right now. My mom happens to be, or used to be, a therapist. So if I need something, I can be like, Mom, got some issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when we have a partner, a romantic partner, why do you want them? Why do women want a romantic partner? So they can share their life with. So the difficult things aren't always so difficult. Why? They want support. So it's only natural that if they find themselves in a state where they go, I don't know why I can't find a good man. Where are all the good men? Are there any good men left? Right? I want to find somebody. It's only natural for them to go, if I can't figure it out myself, then let me call Michelle. Let me find out, right? Let me see how I can have somebody else see into me so that, we can move along quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, don't stay stuck. Give yourself the gift of going for your dream. And in fact, when I was talking to another client today, and we were doing part of this exercise of really going deep and getting to the essence of who she is, I mentioned to her, I said, one thing I really see in you is this commitment. Like I had that commitment, this commitment to have what you're dreaming of, that commitment to find that love. Because she's done a lot of work, in a lot of different areas in her life to really prepare herself for this great love, and she's got a great commitment. And even bringing that to the table, I've had so many of my clients over the years say that the man that they've ended up with, as a partner in a marriage relationship, has really appreciated who they are and who they become and what they did to do that. As they've shared, I've worked with this coach. Sometimes they share, some of their journey and some of the work that they've done. And I think the wisest and healthiest of us, PJ, are those of us who recognize that we can use some support, that we need some support in life, because we all do in different areas, in different ways, and at different times.
I'm taking a boot camp right now about doing more television interviews because I grew up on television and it's time for me to return. And so I'm taking, a boot camp on how to do this. And I don't know if they're husband and wife, if they're boyfriend and girlfriend, if they're just really close friends. I can't quite figure out what the relationship is yet. They live together. So I think they're at least romantic partners, but I don't know if they're married. So anyway, the point is that she said that and she's physically beautiful. She said she spent all of these years by herself. And she's actually a famous lady, so I'm not going to bring her up. But she said she spent all these years by herself. And then when she finally sat down and said, okay, one of the things that I want is someone who is working on themselves also, and someone who doesn't think that it's crazy that I sat down and wrote out all of my badass moments in my life, and that I wrote out a list of the goals and the things that I want to do, and that I am honoring and respecting the value that I bring. I want somebody else to be able to look at themselves and do the same thing. Well, apparently, shortly before they met, he had been doing the same thing. And when they met and they happened to talk about, she's like, oh yeah, I did this. And like, oh my God, I just did it too. And she was like, oh, okay, this is wonderful stuff. And so why I'm telling you that is because it supports what you're saying, which is, are you doing the work? So many times we hear people say, oh, I'm doing the work. Are you really doing the work? Because doing the work isn't just thinking about it. Like one of my friends, I've been using this as an example. A friend of mine has been practicing backflips, right? And when you do a backflip, you have a chance to break your neck in the beginning because you just don't know how to throw your body. You don't know what kind of muscle you need, so there's all kinds of potential danger. But he kept going and he kept going and he kept going and he kept going. Why does he keep going? Because it's something he wants. When we want something physical, we practice, we try, we suffer, we struggle. You know, if we want to cook the perfect meal, we cook it several times. We try it again. We look at the recipe, we talk to people, but we physically go through the motion. But when we talk about doing the internal work, psychology, emotion, spirit, so many times people say they're doing the work, but how are they doing the work? This is why people get spiritual teachers, right? This is why people get coaches. This is why people go to therapy, because somebody else helps them to do the work, holds them accountable so they can actually, this is why people journal. Because when you journal, when you talk to the mirror, these are ways of actually doing the work. But not everybody does the work because they don't know how, or they don't know what the work entails, or they don't know what else could be done. You know, jump on a call with Michelle. I mean, simply as simple as that. Just reach out and say, I don't know if I've done the work or not. I think I have, but can we chat for a minute because I'm not where I want to be? It's as simple as that, right? Because then Michelle might ask you a question and you go, oh, I haven't done that. And you go, okay, maybe there's a next step in there somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so worth it. It's so worth it because I mean, I can just say from my own experience, of which I've, you know, just shared a tiny bit about here in this interview, having love in your life is one of the greatest gifts, one of the greatest gifts, you know, to have that loving, committed partnership, relationship, or marriage, and to have that kind of intimacy with someone is just one of the greatest gifts of life. So it's so worth it. I mean, I'm so incredibly grateful that after beating my head against the wall and trying it my own way for so long, because I was stubborn and I was sure I could figure it out on my own, that I got some support and some help, because that's what really made it possible. Even after reading all of those books, that's what really made it possible for me to have the breakthroughs that allowed me to meet and attract someone amazing into my life. And it's been an unspeakable gift over these past 14 years. I have no words to express my depth of gratitude for that blessing. It's just been an unspeakable gift.
Yeah. And you know, that love that you're talking about, when you have that partner and you're already at the level you want to be at. So you've lifted yourself up, you've done the work for yourself, and you find that partner who's at the level that you wanted, and you're there. You've dropped all of the, you see that I got a little taller. I physically feel like 2 or 3 feet taller as I'm talking about this. You let go of the things holding you down like an anchor. All of a sudden you lift up. You're taller, you're stronger, you're smarter, you're faster, you're more caring, you're more connected. And in that space, there's just the authenticity. And so when you melt into the love with your partner, it's authentic and not, thank you for pulling me up out of the muck and the mire, right? I hope you don't leave me. It's, wow, I'm just really glad that we're here. There's no fear or worry that they're going to leave you. There's no fear or worry that they're checking your cell phone or that you're having to check their cell phone. There's only the oneness. There's only the blending. There's only the spiritual deep connection, right? This is one of the beautiful parts about Tantra. And I know this is a completely different subject, but Tantra is the practice of sacred sex. It's the unification of the two beings, not just the bodies, but the beings uniting and realizing the unity and the oneness within that practice. It's the same as if you just sit down on the couch with your partner, you snuggle into them, and you just lose yourself for a moment in what's left but the feeling of love. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And we all should experience it. We all get to experience it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of the greatest gifts that we can have in this life. So yeah, I love what we've shared here, PJ. And like I said, you and I, we could talk for hours. We do talk for hours when we get a chance. And I love it. I just, from the very first time you and I met, I just felt a real deep connection with you. And I'm sure I'm not the only one out there, but I always just felt a real deep heart connection with you. And really, really appreciate you contributing to this event and the other things we've done together. It really means a lot to me.
Thank you. And I love you too. There's a special place in my heart for you. The soft feminine being that you are, I feel it across the internet. You know, we've never physically, have we ever been physically together?
We've never met in person, no.
I didn't think we had. But
I hope we do sometime.
Oh, we will. There's no doubt in my mind. As soon as the pandemic's done, it'll happen. But you just convey this beautiful softness that I feel like I can melt into every time I'm in your presence. I feel embraced and nurtured and held and like everything I talked about before, like you just exude this beautiful feminine nurturing that I feel incredibly grateful to be in the presence of.
Well, thank you. That is just really a high and beautiful compliment. Thank you. Thank you. And PJ, I know you mentioned it just briefly before, but I really want to give you a chance to talk about this wonderful, wonderful free gift you have, this ebook, this very generous ebook that you've created for our audience. You want to tell us a little more about it?
Sure. 109 pages, right?
Woo-hoo!
Like 12 to 15 pages, you know? I just couldn't stop. Like I have people tell me all the time, bro, why aren't you selling this? I'm like, I don't know. You think I should sell it? In fact, the women that read it are the ones who come back to me and they're like, you need to really be selling this. And I'm like, well, it's like, who's going to buy an ebook? And they're like, it's a freaking real book. And
yeah,
I'm like,
it is.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's 109 pages and it's 15 plus ways for you to date yourself, right? It's actually called 5 Ways to Date Yourself. And one big reason you should, but in each of the 5 categories, there's at least 3 different ways that you can date yourself, meaning go out and connect with yourself, explore who you are, find out what you believe in, what you like, what you love, what moves you, what touches you, what bores you and doesn't touch you and move you at all. Find out these things because when you do and you show up into a relationship, you show up more authentically and more in your power and more prepared to say, hey, let's do this. And you show up, to be honest, you show up as a partner. Instead of just hoping that he's going to guide and lead, you're able to be a partner with, and then you explore and you grow together. That's the fun part of a relationship, not just having somebody guide and be the leader all the time, but exploring together. So it gives you a chance to start by dating yourself, by exploring what's important and valuable to you. And there's 15 different ways and like subtle modifications. So I'm always like 15 plus, you know, it's fun. And there's lots of really beautiful pictures in there. So I think that you'll enjoy it. And again, totally free.
Totally free.
Yeah.
And not even a pandemic can stop you from dating yourself.
It's true. And some of the stuff actually is about like staying inside and doing your own thing. So that's 100% accurate. Yeah, you're totally accurate about that. Again, 5ways.pjswisdom.com. 5 ways, the number 5, 5ways.pjswisdom, WISDOM.com. And
yeah, and we'll also put the link underneath the video that they're watching from too.
And honestly, if you do read it, if you do download it, I would love to hear what you thought of it. Even if you don't like it, even if you're like, oh, this didn't appeal to me, please, I would love to hear your authentic thoughts of it because it helps me to either modify it, change it, or to just be a better man and a better coach. So I hope you enjoy it though.
Yeah, well, thank you, PJ. That's very generous. And I really, really appreciate your contribution with the free gift. And most of all, for just showing up as who you are, because I know that so many of the women here are really blessed by you every time you show up. So we're grateful. Thank you.
I love women. I'm so grateful to be here too. Thank you so much. And I love you. And even though, and I'm talking to the audience, I love you. And even if I don't know you, I have mad love for you.
Right. Thank you. And PJ and I are both sending you lots of love, many blessings, and wishes for a very happy and blessed new year ahead. And we hope that you'll try on these ideas, just like the description of being in the department store, trying on the dresses. Try on a few new things here at the beginning of the new year. It's a good time to shake off the old and put on some new.
Amen, sister.
Sister. Bye for now.
Bye.